Did you ever read, it's not about the future at all actually, it's just a little sci-fi book series. Remember the Animorphs?
No.
Oh, they're so good.
Animorphs, you say, huh? Well, Chloe, I got a whole bunch of them, so you know what to do. Hey everyone, we are back talking about the Peripheral, and oh boy, do I got a lot to unpack here. So as always, please be respectful as I try my best to recap this episode for all of you, because I know some of you were pretty angry with me on the last couple episodes and you were just coming for me. But like I said, I'm going to try my best and give you guys a good recap of episode 4 and tell you everything that happened, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff. But of course, I might miss some things and I might mix some words up here or there because, you know, I'm a human. So be sure to put all your negativity towards the comments and comment down there, because all your guys' comments, even though they suck and they're very mean, they help the channel. So let's jump into episode 4 of the Peripheral, titled Jackpot. The episode starts off with another flashback of a young Wilfred and Alita, as well as a group of other orphans as they look for food. Wolf shows the rest of the kids what he found, which isn't much, and the other orphans start to get mad at him, saying that he's not pulling his own weight. Which I can kind of understand, because dude just found like 1 Snickers and like a dried up cup of apples. So, you know, come on, man. The orphans say that Alita is going to have to share her portion of the food with Wilfred, but off in the distance, Wilfred and Alita see some kids being handed food and other supplies, but Alita has a feeling about this. Something is off of what they're seeing in the distance. The leader of the orphan group pretty much looks at Wilfred and says, dude, well, if you want to pull your weight here, you're going to have to go investigate that. Alita pretty much calls bullshit on that and pretty much says that it's a trap. And Alita says that kids have been being snatched up lately, maybe in due in part of similar kind of traps that look like this. Wolf goes and checks it out, and to no one's surprise, it turns out to be a hologram. And then 2 men emerge from the hologram to chase after Wolf and Alita, and they eventually catch them, and then we cut back into the present or future, depending on how you put it. Lev holds out 3 objects that were recovered from Alita's hideout, an implant and 2 peripheral CPUs. Wolf says that Ash and Ocean might be able to trace the implant and locate Alita. Lev says that this might be doubtful and that Wolf's DNA is likely all over the place, so your boy might be caught and traced back to Lev and the rest of the gang. Lev says that he would send a team to clean it up, but then if the team gets caught, he will be implicated as well. Lev tells Wilf that he might have to consider that Alita is dead, because without her implant, which apparently grants her some immunity to what I'm guessing is like the toxic air that was shown in the beginning of the episode, and I guess is still in the future to some capacity, that she won't last without it for long. We'll talk more about those implants later down in this episode review, because there's some stuff in here that I think we need to talk about, especially pertaining to the toxic gas I was talking about earlier. We'll talk more about that. But we cut to Flynn, who is now dealing with the repercussions of her fight with Daniel at Alita's hideout. We can see that she is physically and mentally deteriorating by the day, and it's scaring the hell out of her. Tommy makes an unannounced visit and voices his concerns to Burton and Flynn about the weird stuff that has been surrounding them as of late. And I just want to say this one thing, just come in here and say, you know, Tommy's character so far, we're 4 episodes in, so I don't want to go too hard on him, but I'm not really feeling his character. I think that he doesn't really have a purpose other than being the person that Flynn has a crush on, or had a crush on, or kind of likes. Don't really see the purpose to him. I'm sure later on in the episodes down the line, he'll get something to do, but right now, not really a fan. Flynn and Burton lied to Tony because Burton doesn't want him to get too involved in the situation. I mean, the dude is a cop after all. Flynn hates this idea and wants to tell Tommy the truth, but Burton says that she is not fully thinking things through because of her crush on Tommy. Flynn and Burton get into a heated argument, which causes Flynn to have a seizure, and you can really tell that Flynn is really suffering from going into her peripheral and just going into the future, like data transferring into the future. It's really having an effect on her. Like, she's starting to see herself having bruises. Other people are seeing like random bruises are showing up on her face, on her body. And like I said, she's just having a seizure right now. So all the stuff that's happening when she's in her peripheral is actually being transferred back into her real world life when she goes back into the past. It's really complicated. We then go back to the future and see Dr. Newland is resurrecting her henchman slash lover, I guess. You know, I'm just throwing it out there. You know, she kind of seems like, you know, she acts tough. You know, she acts like she don't give a crap. But to bring back this rando dude that she says she was gonna kill when he was like a human, to put him into a robot, and then the robot has like face, it looks weird. But she does resurrect Daniel into another robot and gets more information about the altercation between him, Flynn, and Wolf. Newland learns that Wolf is working for Lev and that she might have to pay Lev a little visit. And that interaction is weird, to say the least. Can't wait to get to that. We cut to Burton, Connor, and Leon, who are discussing what has happened to Flynn and whether or not Burton should go into her peripheral. Leon tells Burton that he is too important to go, and that is when Connor pretty much volunteers to enter Flynn's peripheral in Burton's place. I mean, Connor's pretty much like, dude, I got one arm, you know, I got no legs, and you're telling me I can go into a body and, you know, I can move around again, and let alone you can go into Chloë Moretz's body? Okay, I probably gotta stop before I get in trouble. In the next scene, we get our first sighting, which I think is our first sighting of Lev's wife, Dominica, played by Claire Cooper. As Wolf enters the room, he kind of pretty much quickly sees her, and then he's like, oh hell no, and he tries to leave, but she kind of stops him and tells him like, no, stay, let me talk to you, and just do these mental gymnastics on you. Before he can leave, Dominique calls him out for avoiding her the entire time he has been here, and she confesses that she and her husband saw Wolf dancing at a club one night, and then she pretty much asks Wolf to dance, and then they start dancing, and it gets kind of steamy, kind of hot, like they've done this before. You know, like Dominica is like kind of like looking at Wolf, and you know, like they got some kind of history going on, and Wolf's like doing really, you know, he's putting his hands where he shouldn't be putting on another man's wife, you know, like stuff like that. But I gotta say, you know, Wolf is going on, you know, he got Alita, you know, he's going with, we know they got something going on more than a sister-brother relationship or friendship, anything. Then he kisses freaking Flynn. Granted, that was to get out of a situation, a sticky situation, but he kissed her, you know, he got her going down, and now he's messing with this girl, you know, Lev's wife. Bro, you know, what's going on? While this is going on, we see that Lev is watching all of this, but he is quickly ambushed by the sudden appearance of Dr. Newland. Lev seems surprised by this, but he quickly composes himself as they start talking. Newland tells Lev about the roles that the CLEP, the Met, and the research institution play in society. And I don't know if this is me, guys, but when this scene happens and she's talking about the CLEP, the Met, and the research institution, this is where the show kind of loses it for me. Like I said in the beginning, my first episode, if you haven't seen it, go check it over here. I was saying that this show might be a little bit too heavy into the sci-fi. It might lose the general audience. And as somebody who considers himself a general audience, I didn't read the books, you know, I don't know anything. I like sci-fi for the most part, but really heavy sci-fi, it can lose me. And when they start talking about these factions that we haven't really been introduced to, it starts to lose me a little bit. Like, I'm going to try my best to figure out what factions these are, but the way so far that they're presenting it, I'm not really a fan of. Newland says that all three of these factions will crumble, and to describe this, she starts using the most perfectly cut toast I've ever seen to describe this. I mean, that toast must taste good. But if Lev doesn't bring her the item that Newland wants, soon everything will be destroyed. So right here, I think this is where we get kind of confirmation that Lev is working with Dr. Newland in some kind of capacity. I don't know how far deep, you know, in the pockets of Newland that Lev is in, but he is working with her in some capacity. And of course, I think that Wolf doesn't know the entire story, you know, what he's actually being a part of. I mean, the dude's too busy going around messing with all these ladies, you know? I mean, not a bad problem to have, but damn, dude. Newland then threatens Lev and says that the Research Institute has methods of using someone's DNA and tracking them down no matter where they are hiding, and that she did the same thing to Lev's friend, Yuri. Newland and Lev then look at a cup of tea that Lev was drinking and pretty much tells the audience that's where the DNA is at. And right as Lev looks up from the cup of tea, he sees that Newland is gone, but so is his cup of tea. We then cut to Connor booting into Flynn's peripheral and quickly starting to make a run for it. But I also like how when Connor gets into Flynn's peripheral, he's like, oh man, I have the power now. And he's like looking at his hands and everything. And then he gets up and he turns to Ash and he's like, who the fuck are you? And I really like Chloë Grace Moretz's like facial like acting here. She kind of is like, I'm just gonna look as cool as possible. Like it really looks like Connor has enveloped like the peripheral of Flynn. It's really good acting in my opinion. I thought it was pretty cool. Ash kicks out Connor from Flynn's peripheral and it looks like it hurts like hell. I mean, the guy's face is like in agony. Wolf then goes looking for Flynn to ask her why Connor was in her peripheral and finds out that Flynn is watching one of her home videos in VR. Wolf tells Flynn about what Connor and Burton have been up to while she has been away, which kind of shocks Flynn, but she quickly shrugs it off and tells Wolf that she found more information about Lev in her timeline and that they were a real person, but they died along with their family in a tragic house burning. Wolf kind of looks surprised, but he assures Flynn that the two Levs have nothing in common except their names. But I think by the look of Wolf's face, he kind of knows something off is here. He kind of knows he's being played. I mean, the dude kind of like has been being played his entire life. The more we get to peel back the layers and see a lot of the stuff about his past, poor guy's been pretty much used. Wolf tells Flynn to get the CAT scan and to heal up, and he leaves Flynn to her sim. Wolf then confronts Lev and tells him the information that he got from Flynn, and Lev comes clean and tells him that Alita was being paid to create stubs, which are alternate timelines. Had to look that up, so that the Klep could use them as experiments, and that one of the experiments was Lev creating himself in Flynn's timeline and then killing them off because he didn't like the idea of having two of himself alive at the same time. I mean, I knew, you know, Lev was a sneaky guy and everything. I knew he's like, you know, he knew his way around, you know, he's a very eclectic dude and stuff, but damn. Dude is cold-blooded. Back in the past, Flynn and Burton try to come up with a plan to take back control of the situation from the people in the future London. They come to a conclusion that they need to use Flynn's talents for Sims to take back control. Flynn says that she is ready to go back into the Sim and get the plan rolling, but Burton is not so sure about it since Flynn is not 100% yet. And that is pretty much validated when we see Flynn pretty much like shaking, her hand is cramping up a lot throughout the entire episode. But Burton reluctantly agrees to let Flynn go back into the peripheral so that she can try to get Connor and Burton a peripheral as well, which I think should have been the plan from the beginning when she first started going into the future and, you know, seeing all this stuff. I think she should have tried to get, like, you know, some peripherals for her family, for Burton, for Connor, for the rest of Burton's Marine Corps friends, like, you know, so she can have some backup when she goes into this. But when Flynn arrives into the future, she tells Ash that she is going to explore and that she cannot stop her. Ash lets Ocean know that Flynn is doing this and asks him to help her shut her down. But Flynn is getting help from her co-workers at the 3D printing store, Mackin and Edward, who apparently are hackers now, you know, why not? Ocean manages to kick Flynn out of the peripheral for a while, but Mackin and Edward quickly bring her back in. Flynn then tells Ash that she needs to start telling the truth about her timeline's future or she's gonna be mad, you know, she's gonna make that Chloë Grace mad face. Ash takes Flynn to what looks like to be a cemetery, and they are quickly joined by Wolf. The two start to tell Flynn about her timeline's future as the cemetery quickly turns into one creepy ass museum, apparently. They say like, hey, this is kind of a museum and you can learn about stuff. You know, and I've been to museums where they have interactive, like, you know, history, storytelling kind of thing, and they don't look as scary as this one. Ash goes into the timeline of events that happen to Flynn's timeline, first with a months-long blackout that engulfs the entire planet, then a pandemic which they call the Blood Plague, and, you know, that's totally not what is happening nowadays, right? The Blood Plague causes organs to fill up with blood and then eventually burst, which sounds terrifying, and I think they're gonna go more deeper into that, which I don't know, because, you know, I'm not really a gore guy, so if they start showing some gore stuff, you know, the eye thing that they did in the first episode, again, go check it out over here, was creepy enough for me, and, you know, if they start doing some more stuff, I don't know. I mean, I can handle the gore, you know, I can handle all this stuff. I watched Dr. Pimple Popper, so I can handle it to an extent. Then Ash talks about the third event, which is a environmental catastrophe, which ends up killing off 7 billion people over a long period of time. And lastly, a terrorist attack on a nuclear missile silo that exploded in Flynn's hometown. Then after that brief history lesson, Flynn pretty much says she's done with that and gets out of the peripheral and back into her time. Burton and the rest of the gang pretty much ask her, like, what's going on? Are you okay? And she looks very, you know, upset because she just saw, you know, the end of her timeline, the end of her world, and then the episode ends. So that is it, guys. That is episode 4 of The Peripheral, and I gotta say, man, that was a lot of information to take in. Unlike the last episode where we got a lot of backstory on certain characters, this one is more world building. We get a lot of information on the world. Like I said in the beginning of the video, they are throwing out some terms to us like MET and, you know, Research Institute and, you know, CLEP and all that stuff, which I'm not fully understanding and getting. I don't think the show is doing a good job of presenting those and talking about that, but again, this is only episode 4, so I think they have time to flesh those parts out of the show. But this episode also has a lot of questions, and, you know, that need to be answered, especially about the last scene that we saw of the nuclear attack, you know, nuclear explosion. Who is the person that did that? Who is the group of people that caused that? Is it possibly Flynn's people? You know, Burton's group of friends, are they the ones doing it? Is it somebody from the future timeline coming in? Dr. Newland? Who could it be? And there's always that question, since we did get that really big information from Lev that they are making stubs, different timelines, and using experiments in them. Is Flynn's timeline an experiment? You know, we did see in the last couple episodes that Alita had some of Flynn's stuff. So is Alita making Flynn's timeline? Like, is she doing experiments in that timeline? She did specifically choose Burton's character, you know, the character he was using in his sim, to be the assistant that she needed in the first episode. So there might be a connection there. But the most important thing is, guys, for you guys to let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are your theories? What do you think about all this stuff going on? What do you think about the way that they're telling the story? How do you feel about the show so far? What do you think of Chloë Grace Moretz and her love of Animorphs? I mean, personally, I really enjoy it. You know, I'm really happy about that. We definitely need more Animorphs in our lives, you know. Hashtag bring back Animorphs. But as always, guys, if you haven't checked out my last episode, episode 3, go check that out. It's going to be in the description down below and wherever I posted it, somewhere around here. And guys, don't forget to check out my Twitter so you can stay updated with my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, guys, keep watching.